today with another episode of Howie's Hometown Heroes, where we feature business owners, entrepreneurs, and community members who are doing extraordinary, amazing things right there in their own community. Today, guess where we are? Sao Paulo, Brazil. That's like the other side of the world almost, I think, right? And we're with my good friend Jill Diamond. She's got an amazing business, something that I never even thought of before. What she does is she's an English communication skills coach. So what that means, and she'll tell you more about it for sure, but she can help non-native English speakers to speak more confidently and clearly and to be able to get their points across. Business executives, telecom people, all those kinds of people who really need to, who have a worldwide presence, but really need to speak clearly wherever they go. So I thought that was a pretty awesome kind of business. Well, let me tell you about her. First thing I asked is, what's a dialect? What's an accent? What does this mean? All that stuff's kind of muddy together to me. So we're going to find out a little more about that. And she's been doing this since 1992, since she was like 10 years old, I can for sure. Some of the things she's particularly proud of, which I thought was really interesting, when we ask people a little bit of their history and things that they've done, here's some things that I think are absolutely awesome. Picture yourself, you're in your business, you're doing your stuff, and a company is paying you, right, first class to go to India to do the training that she does, right? And there she is. That's like top of the world, right? When people are paying you to do your job and sending you around the world to do it. Boy, it doesn't get much better than that, that's for sure. She was also recognized in New York City as a leading woman entrepreneur. That's a pretty cool thing too. There's always that. And I think this is the most interesting thing, is that she's created a lifestyle. Now she's in Brazil. She's from Manhattan, but she's in Brazil, goes back and forth all the time. She's created the lifestyle that she wanted to have. Can you picture that? Sometimes people are going through life just going with the flow. Oh, that looks like let's go try another job. Let's do this, do that. And at the end of their life, they're like wherever they are, right? But she intentionally put these pieces together to create something that she really is proud of, and really that she really likes to live in that lifestyle. Wouldn't that be great for just about everybody? So very cool. Well, Jill, thanks for coming on the show today. This is awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Howard.
Yeah. So tell us like a fun fact about you, something crazy, wild and crazy.
Fun fact. Oh, well, a lot of my friends have said that I've lived many lives. And when I was in my early 20s, I was busy studying Native American Indian ceremonies and traditions. And that's a fun fact about me.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. What did you learn from some of those? What got you into that in the first place?
Well, I was living out in California, that place where everything's a little kooky, right?
Fruits and nuts.
Fruits and nuts. And I was just studying nutrition, actually. I was studying the healing arts, and I just thought that was one of the interesting electives. They had a Native American Indian chief who would come by once a month, and I decided I wanted to learn from him, and I did. I learned a lot about spirituality and nature, the relationship to nature, and that really struck a chord with me.
That's something that always impressed me too about I love doing things outside also, but their whole lifestyle is about nature and the outdoors and all that stuff. So I thought very cool. Well, very cool. That's really cool. So tell us a little bit from there, right? How did you get into a speech communication person? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, look, my growing up in high school and college, I was studying acting and singing. And that's how I got out to California originally, was I was pursuing a career as an actress. And what happened later in life was, well, not too, but in my late 20s, early 30s, probably by my mid 30s, I was a singer-songwriter in Manhattan. And on the side, I was teaching English. I was working at the World Trade Center, at the language center there. And I was meeting a lot of interesting people from all over the world. Wow. And at that time, I met a friend. I had a friend who was a teacher there, and he asked me if I wanted to go into business with him and open up a language school. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I mean, because I was a singer. But to be honest with you, I had recently completed a master's degree in education with a focus on the arts. How can I use my passion, which was music and theater techniques,
Yeah.
to help adults learn? Now, at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to help them learn. So when my friend asked me to open the business, I eventually caved. I eventually said, yes, let's do it. But I want to teach communication skills. I don't want to teach language. So we started our company, and it all stemmed from my passion for communication in the arts. And then I was able to, through my master's degree, learn how to create curriculums. So by the time I opened the business in 1997, I already kind of knew how I could take my passion and create
Where
a
all these
business.
pieces are going to go. What was his background?
Exactly.
What was his background?
He also was a language. I mean, his father was French, his mother was American. He had a passion for languages, and so he wanted to, teach English.
So I just want to see where that synergy comes from. I mean, he thought it up. How did that? Yeah, what was his thought process there?
Yeah, he wanted to teach English, and I wanted to teach communication skills. And quite frankly, and the other, I guess, reason we were drawn to one another is my family. My father had a business growing up, so I did have a background in business, and I think he also was interested in my background in business.
So okay, a lot of different pieces kind of come together like a puzzle, and then you got everything working together. So cool.
Yeah.
So good. So that's really good. Tell us a little bit about that process you go through with a client when you're trying to help them out. How do they come to you in the first place? Well,
back then, I have to be honest with you, back then, we met a lot of people at the World Trade Center, and we had people follow us to our business. And so that was kind of how it started. And, we started with the big banks, the Goldman Sachs, we started with the financial institutions, the pharmaceutical companies, the telcos, the Cisco systems of the world. And so that was a little bit of luck. And then, of course, hard work, right? The hard work being having the curriculum, having the know-how. And my partner at the time was an amazing teacher. I had the chops, if you will, as well. And so, it all started there. And then it was a lot of word of mouth, a lot of networking, and I will share an interesting story, even though I am passionate about acting and singing and communicating and being in front of people. I'm also an introvert. And I found it very, very difficult to network. Whereas my business partner was like fantastic at that. And so I learned so much from him about how to be comfortable in a room. And I think networking, back in the day before everything was online, if you weren't at a few networking events every week, then you weren't growing your business, right? You had to find new clients. So word of mouth after the initial clients, networking, hard work, advertising, of course, there was always that too.
Yeah. Besides that, so those are some skills you had to learn kind of moving forward. Anything else that you had to learn also moving forward? Anything else that to help the business grow, or the two of you together?
Well, sure. I had to learn how to manage money.
Yeah. There you go.
Right. I mean, especially as an artist, that was the last thing that I always thought about was the money part. And in fact, I didn't really go into business for the money. I realized later that here's my passion and I'm making money doing what I love. Let me learn the financial side. And so later, this was years after I split from my business partner, the company was growing. I was part of a Make Mine $1 Million, I think was the name of the women's organization, how to grow your business to $1 million. But at that time, I brought in a COO. And having a COO was really when I really started to learn a lot about cash flow and, managing the money, because it wasn't easy every week to make payroll, to pay everybody. So that was a big piece.
How many people did you have?
I would say at the time we were the largest, probably about 30 employees.
Wow, that's a lot. It's a big, that's a lot of people.
It was big. Yeah, we had an office of about 6 people. At that time, we had a language division. a communication skills division, and a translating and interpreting division. So between all the
Wow.
teachers and the translators and the staff, yeah, we were about 30 people. It was
Wow, that's
great.
a lot.
I loved it.
Wow, that's a lot of moving parts there for sure.
It was.
And what was the most fun part of that, or what was the most challenging part of? Well, first of all,
yeah.
which division was either the most fun or the most challenging, and then how did you manage it all together?
Yeah, good. So where to start? So 3 divisions, it just made sense to, because we started as a language company, we had a translation interpreting division.
Oh,
That was really my least, I wasn't as interested in that because teaching languages wasn't my passion. Communicating, knowing the language, right? That was my passion. So I would say that the translation interpreting division was probably the least fun, and then I guess the most challenging thing was making each division relevant, making sure that each division was profitable. And it must have been in 2005 that in one of the universities in Washington, D.C., I'm drawing a blank which one it was. It could have been George Washington University. They did a case study on my company. Oh. And in doing the case study, they showed me that, you have 3 different divisions, you're all over the place. Could you focus your company? If you can focus your company, you're probably going to be more financially successful. Oh, and that's what I did. It took me a few years, probably took me about 3 or 4 years before I really listened, but I have streamlined the business. And today we're an English communication skills company. That's what we focus on.
That was that was your passion anyways.
That was my passion anyway.
And how many people do you have working now?
Now it's probably about 4 or 5 of us. Yeah. As a part of your intro was that I created a lifestyle for myself. And part of that meant that I'm really doing a lot of the coaching and managing the business on a smaller scale today. Although I'm sure we'll talk about this later, I am in the process of reestablishing and growing the business to a bigger size again.
Oh, okay, awesome. So you couldn't have, I guess, right? You couldn't grow the business the way you are without Zoom or something, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, lucky for me, I started online doing blended coaching back in 2010. So when I was in the process of changing my lifestyle, I was introducing my corporate clients to the idea, oh, well, maybe we could do some online and some in person. And it was a little unusual back then, but it worked. And by the time COVID hit, I was all ready to go.
You're ready to go. So you're ready to go. Yet another thing as a pioneer of what you're doing. That's right.
Yeah, yes, right. To be ahead of the times, or at least with the times, right?
Yes, that's for sure. That's for sure. And it takes some vision to be able to come up with that. Do you think were you looking to move in that direction, or did you say, this is a need I need to fill and I got to figure it out? Or did you say, oh, Zoom, hey, I can take advantage of that?
Right. Well, that's a great question. In 2009, it was December of 2009, and we got a call from Cisco Systems that they were canceling 2 programs in Dubai. And then we got a call from Novartis, and then we kept getting calls from our clients, cancel. The Great Recession was hitting, and I closed my office. And I closed my office by January of 2010. And actually, let's go back a year. It was 2008 into 2009. That's when all that happened. So in 2009, I closed the office. And in closing the office, that's when everything started to downsize. And that's when my husband who's Brazilian, we were talking about what would it be like if we spent more time in Brazil. And so I was slowly looking at all the ways that I could make that happen. And so I started with WebEx, WebEx tool. Yeah.
There's a lot of those platforms way back then. Yeah. It's funny how it all gravitated to three platforms essentially now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So tell us about some success stories that maybe you've had about helped some people out get promotions or help the division move or just something like that.
Sure. I mean, a lot of the professionals I work with come from other countries, but they're living in the United States. And one of the greatest challenges for someone, whether they are in finance or whether they are in human resources at a retail company, is getting promoted. They get to a certain position where they're doing well and they feel that they are hitting a wall. And we've all heard about the glass ceiling. Maybe women have had challenges getting to a certain place in their career. Well, it's also true of people with accents. And, we call it accent attitudes or unconscious bias towards people with accents. And even if the organization feels that they are not having these types of attitudes or biases, the individuals sometimes feel that. And then they lack confidence. And so that affects their performance, that affects how much they're speaking up in the room. And so I have had quite a few success stories where individuals have been asked to come to me. So the company will hire me and I'll do one-on-one coaching with the individual, and then they'll get promoted. And so, that has happened many, many times throughout my career, and it just warms my heart.
How does that make you feel? Yeah, when you can get that done, right?
Yeah, look, in some ways it's hard to take it in, but when I sit back, I've learned over the years to feel grateful for those moments, because that's why I do what I do, right? To help people. So when people call or write to tell me that, I sit back and I get a little tear in my eye. So
there you go. And that's what we're living for, right? That's really very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Let's go back a second. I like the way when we talk about creating your lifestyle between New York and Brazil. Where are the other 4 or 5 people? Are they in New York? Or are they in Brazil?
All over the world. I have a woman in the Philippines. I have another woman in New York. I have a couple people, probably 3 people in New York. Someone in the Philippines who helps me with my marketing and so forth. So yeah, the majority is in New York. Yeah.
Okay.
Brazil, I have somebody who helps me here in Brazil as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is that we talk about creating your lifestyle, and that goes back to a lot of self-help gurus who talk about creating life. But I think it's easier to say than it is to do. Right?
It is.
Right? All kinds
it
of
is. You got time zones. You got family dynamics. You got time zones.
Oh my gosh! So tell us that process that you went through to think about it, or if you have any kids, or how your husband was involved, or how did all that come about, and how did you manage to do that?
Me being able to create the lifestyle?
Yeah. So how many different moving parts did you have to wrestle together?
Okay, good.
You know what I mean?
I do not have children. My husband does not have children. So that was one piece we did not have to wrestle with. And I'm sure that could have changed everything.
Sure.
So really, because of what was going on in 2009 in the United States and around the world with the recession, it was really time. It was an easy time to reflect and reinvent, kind of like what everybody's been going through in the last 3 years with the reinvention, whether they lost their job, whether they realized it wasn't the right job for them, right? It was time to sit back and say, well, who am I? What do I really want to do? And now can I do that? So for me, it was one of the interesting moments was one of my full-time employees who stayed with me after we downsized. She was getting married. She moved out of New York City. She was continuing to work with me. And I saw what she was doing and I said, I want that. I want that. And so I think I bumped up this idea that I could go to Brazil sooner than I thought. And with things being online. So that was part of the process, seeing somebody else do what I wanted. And she worked for me, right? And so that was an interesting aha. And then, of course, having my husband's support, knowing that, he was working, he could help me if I had any struggles during the transition. So I did have that support. And then I had my family, my mother and father and brother, they were excited for me. And, and then maybe another hard part for me was knowing that I would leave my friends behind, but come to find out, indeed, I was going back and forth every 2 to 3 months. So it worked out. So it really wasn't that hard. I would say once we got well into 2009, the hard part for me was closing the office in New York. That was really hard. Yeah.
What
that was a necessity. Well, that was necessity. As I said, my clients were calling me left and right in December and January and canceling. So how was I going to make the rent? I wasn't going to be able to pay the Manhattan rent, right?
Right. Well,
So
but the same thought process is like, what do I need it for? Right. Because that's what's happening
the
now.
office.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but back then I was petrified to not have an office.
Yeah. Because that was the thing. Because that was the thing, right?
And I loved it. One of the things I loved about what I did was walking in the office every day and seeing people there and watching the machine operate and being needed and helping people people grow. I mean, in the office, so I mean, it was hard to leave. Yeah.
It's hard to, yeah. It's a different, but it was kind of a different mindset is what I'm getting at. So
yes.
It took a while to get from the one mindset to the next mindset when you saw them.
That's right. Not too long, maybe about a year, but then I did it.
Okay. Yeah. We have similar stories in our office too. And we'll talk about that another time, but that's the idea. When you can, there are things happen to you or me or whoever, things happen, and what do we do about it? We can moan and groan and whatever, right? Or just say, okay, this is the situation I'm at. Here's the cards I'm dealt. What am I going to do?
That's right.
Move forward in a positive way.
Yeah.
Always comes out the better the other way.
I guess the first couple of years that I was going back and forth and I was in Brazil, I did have clients who, oh, you're not in New York right now? Oh, well, when are you going to be here? And I did have to acquiesce and get on a plane sometimes and go back to New York sooner than I anticipated until, it just got more and more familiar, and until I understood that the best process for onboarding clients was meet them in person first. And then after about a month, let them know that we would be moving to a blended learning environment. So that was kind of how I did it for many years up till COVID.
There you go. Setting their expectations of what's going to happen next. So it fits, so they understand, and it fits your lifestyle also at the same time.
That's right.
There you go. I think that's a great takeaway for everybody, right? You're always thinking, you're thinking one way because that's how you've always done it, kind of, right? And then think, okay, what's another way we can do this and get at least the equivalent, if not better, outcome, right?
Yes.
So there you go. So that's cool. So good. This is very cool. I really love this conversation. Where do you see yourself going in the future with your 5, 6 people, however many you got? Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love that question because I'm really excited about the future. I was probably in 2012, 2011, I started talking to online language companies and looking for ways that I could bring my methodology, the Diamond Method, which looks at the American accent and what is the musical component of the language and how can we help you to be better understood and to be confident when you speak, as you mentioned. So I was talking to these online language companies because I wanted to partner with them and bring my methodology onto their platform. Well, didn't work out back then, right? I talked to many companies for several years and then I said, oh, forget it. And when COVID hit in 2020, my husband and I, we have a mountain house in Brazil. We went to the mountains. I got myself an office space. And I came to the office every day and I started to build my digital programs. Oh. This was something that back then I didn't really, the platforms weren't as available to do it for yourself, like a Udemy. I don't know if you've heard of Udemy, but there's different platforms out there where people can take their methodology, their program, whatever they're teaching, and they can put it up and sell it.
Oh,
but
interesting. Okay.
I hadn't found any that I believed in, whether they took too much commission or I just hadn't found what I was looking for. So by the time 2020 came around, there was enough out there that I saw, and I chose a platform. I built my first self-paced digital program and started selling it. And, that whole make money while you sleep. So you have to work hard really first. But after you have it up and running, you are making money. You wake up the next morning and you have some sales, but, and then from there, last year in 2022, I created cohort-based training. And so I have 2 programs. One is a challenge called the Great Imitation Challenge. And the other is called How to Succeed at Work and in Life with a Foreign Accent. And both of those are on platforms where you learn in a group environment. So I have now gone from just doing one-on-one coaching, which was really what was going on, I would say, in the last 7 or 8 years, to now having more to offer, a variety of ways in which people can learn. And it's good for me because I think I'm in a position in the next 3 to 5 years that if the artificial intelligence starts to do teaching, that I'm already an influencer. You know, I have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow.
You know, I'm already, I've been around for a long time. My methodology works. So I'm hoping that I beat AI, you know, and all that stuff, because it's coming and it's going to take over jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
For teachers, for coaches like me. Yeah.
Coaches. Yeah, I've heard that also. For content writers, anything that has to do with creation in that way. Yeah, it can do it better, faster, and way cheaper.
So I feel like I'm there. I'm ready to go.
I'm thinking though. I guess I don't know that end of your world, but I would, if I'm learning a subject, I get whatever it is, even the finance concepts and stuff that that I have had to learn over however many years, right? Some came easily, some maybe not so much, but that doesn't matter. I learned it however I learned it. But even today, when I'm learning new things, I want to ask somebody about, I'll learn this, but now and I'll ask, what about this? What about that? Who's going to answer that? And
well, they do have the bots that answer those questions. And then they say, do you still need to talk to somebody?
Yeah. And I'll say, yeah, I do.
Yes, I do. Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, people do want to talk to people. And so humans will always be needed at some tier of the learning.
Okay. So it's really more at the, okay.
Here's the thing about accent training is that the technology is not good enough yet to be able to help people with the melody of the language, the intonation patterns, the rhythm of the language. It's getting there, but it's still not 100% able to hear and then correct what somebody needs to do. It's certainly much better than it was 5-10 years ago.
Okay. I didn't, you mentioned it a couple of times, and I'm not sure I understand that. So language has a rhythm and like music in a way?
Yes,
right?
yes. So some languages are what we call stress timed and others are syllable timed. And English is what we call a stress timed language, which means some syllables are longer than others.
Okay.
And if you don't know that, then you're more likely to pronounce everything more equally. And when you do that, it's harder for native speakers to understand. Do you see what I did?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. Clearly I didn't know that, but so that's why some non-native speakers, it's so obvious that they're harder to understand. So they're using their own language rhythm, I guess.
Yes. And they're putting it onto English.
Wow, that is fascinating. There you go.
And then just think about the best public speakers in the world. The best public speakers have dynamics in their voice.
Exactly.
So I help people with that. Could you get away from the monotone? Let's get you to stress that. Let's get you to change, maybe get quieter here. Right. So we work on the voice, the melody, the volume, those types of things as well.
And the different energies that people put out. There's a more withdrawn or an aspirational kind of energy or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Which gets communicated through the voice.
Yeah. Actually.
And cool. Gestures and so forth.
Gestures and all the other stuff. Wow, I'm like blown away by all this new stuff I learned today.
Good.
I got another idea I want to talk to you about later.
Okay.
So this has really been awesome today. Is there anything else you want to share with us? We didn't talk about it. Anything else going on?
I don't know. I think we talked about where I came from and where I am, where I'm going. Nothing else comes to mind right now.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. So as in all this time that you've been in this career path, right? And you are where you are now, because now you've got a whole different future ahead of you with new stuff coming along. Would you say you got to where you are now by maybe just some luck or hard work?
Oh, I would say hard work for sure. Yeah, in my case, as I said, I mean, there's always these lucky moments. And I think when we started our career, the economy was strong and we were lucky to have some corporate clients, follow us. But, it's always hard work. Just because that happens doesn't mean that your future is written in the stars, right?
For sure. That's for sure. As much as we would like. It's like,
Yeah.
so very good. Well, good, Jill, this has really been awesome. I really appreciate you being here. And anybody out there if there's someone who is, we call bi-coastal, you live in two different coasts of the
Two
country.
different countries.
By country or multiple
Yeah.
countries or wherever people are. We love talking to them. So contact me, get their name in the comments and we'll get them on the show for sure. So just so you know, whether it's your business, your community organization, or your family even, it's money that make those gears keep turning. Make sure your money is is working for you the most optimal way it can. Thanks for being here, Jill. This is great.
Thanks for having me so much. Thanks, Howard.